I mean,
yeah, we
no
can't
matter
help it.
what day we do the podcast on, some news will break.
Yeah, exactly. And let's find out, because now it's time for us to take a look at the news from around the world of Rugby League. Okay, so 6-day-old news from around the world of Rugby League. That was amazing, wasn't it? That was serious mid-morning matters style, wasn't it? That was good. You'll notice that there is an absence of my poll this week. I just couldn't bring myself to get my poll out over Brian Smith. I figured it was a bit too repetitive after the Hull KR one. So we'll hang fire, and there'll be fresh poll.
Get your poll.
I'll be getting my poll out fresh this week.
Yeah.
But it's not had a lot to do for the last few days, so it'll be...
No, and it's already disappointed today, as we heard at the top of the show.
It'll be ready to go by the middle of the week, I would have thought. But big news coming out of Super League this week is that Brian Smith has resigned as the head coach of Super League club Wakefield Trinity Wildcats. The 61-year-old Australian, who's the brother of Warrington coach Tony Smith, joined Wakefield in May 2015 before signing a new one-year deal last October. By his manner, you could tell this wasn't a decision that he was going to change his mind on. Carter, who's the chairman at Wakefield Trinity Wildcats, told BBC Radio Leeds on Tuesday, "We've had a frosty relationship since Christmas, and those reasons will stay with me." He also went on to add that he's the highest paid coach we've ever had, and it's the highest playing budget we've ever had here. Quitting is not an option for some of us, and we have to live with the hand we're dealt. So...
yeah, it's developed a bit, hasn't it, since we...
It has moved on a touch, hasn't it?
Put this down in writing. And the reasons have started to slip out because shots were fired first from Smith and then countered by Carter. But basically, the sounds of the thing is that Smith thought the management of the club was far from professional, and Carter apparently feels like Smith was trying to take over the club, but with no feasible or meaningful business plan put in front of the club to actually consider an offer to take over the club. So it just sort of seems like maybe Smith's fallen in with some of the old boys network, and Carter's does things in a different way.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Michael Carter. I think he's cutting his cloth accordingly. Some of his decisions have been interesting ones, and I'm not sure whether or not Wakey have decided to adopt a policy of keep our wage expenditure low until the middle eights, then invest a little bit to stay in Super League and kind of just maintain themselves at this sort of lower end Super League level rather than risk going out of the league. But that in itself seems like a risky strategy, but it's the only thing I can kind of think of that might justify some of the decisions that you see coming out of Bellevue.
Well, it really depends on how things are structured there. We know that they don't have the best facilities. We know that they don't have a guarantee position with the ground unless a charitable trust effectively can buy the place and they can play there. There's not much more option coming. We know that Carter is personally indebted up to the hilt to keep the club in operation, and we know that they should be able to spend to the salary cap with not much more money having to go into running the club outside of that, given the Sky money hits the salary cap amount, and they can't afford to do that. Yeah. So there's obviously things being paid off somewhere, things being money that could have been used to the playing budget is having to go elsewhere to keep things afloat, and it's not an ideal situation for any club to be in. No. I can't imagine them spending that much more than Bradford and Lee are spending, let's be honest.
Not by the look of the squad, really.
No.
They are comparable, aren't they, I suppose? So, yeah, tricky times at Wakefield. Well, Brian Davies got in touch with us, and he's a Wakefield Trinity Wildcats fan, isn't he? What did he have to say?
Brian said, the Brian Smith resignation is a real surprise. The Wakey job must be the hardest one in Super League. Brian Smith talked about the fact that it would take time to make Wakey great again, yet he seems to have quit because he couldn't achieve instant success. Wakey have been in a real mess. Over the last couple of years, they have gotten some stability off the pitch, and things are slowly but steadily turning round. Brian Smith took the job of slowly and steadily turning things around on the field. He clearly gave some advice about training facilities and off-field support staff, which will benefit the club long term, but to see him spend the money available, lead pre-season, and then quit once the games get started is disappointing. would like to see Glenn Morrison get the job next. He's used to working with no budget and getting the best out of players of limited ability. He's young and trying to make a career in the game, so a few years gradually improving Wakey would be great on his CV. He also knows the modern game from a player's point of view. Knowing our luck, though, we'll sign Chris Chester.
Well, he's from Wakefield, isn't he, Chris Chester? I don't think if I'm Glenn Morrison that I want to take that gig.
Well, we spoke...
To be honest,
we spoke about this
last year, didn't we?
11 months ago, 10 months ago,
yeah.
Whenever it was that Webster left the job.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one to see anyone who is under no pressure to perform, and I'd add John Keir into this mix as well.
Yeah.
Under no pressure to perform at the championship clubs that they are at.
Yeah.
Because they know that those clubs are very unlikely to go down, especially now given the start they've both had to the season.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't see...
You can't see Batley or Dewsbury being in trouble this year, can you?
No, not now. You can't see three of those bottom three teams, or four teams, all getting 10 points, basically. Yeah. And Dewsbury and Batley will get at least 10 points by the end of this season. So you can't see that. So they're under no pressure. They're not necessarily going to get a massive pay rise to be at Wakefield. They're probably going to have to do more, in a way, because... there's more to do at a full-time club than there is at a part-time club. You've got to assume.
Yeah.
They might have more support around them in terms of other staff in the building and players there full-time and what have you. But it's not exactly the opportunity to. But then again, these opportunities aren't going to exist now. Now that we've gone back to a forced promotion and relegation system, these opportunities aren't going to exist.
No. The only time, well. I don't know, people don't always take up options on contracts and stuff, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and there's also clubs like Hull and Salford, Hull FC and Salford, that you don't really see going down, but you do see changes in coaching positions that these guys can step into as a stepping stone to top jobs. But
if I was Glenn Morrison, that's what I'd be looking at, though. If my ambition lay in Super League, I wouldn't be looking at coming in and steering this listless Wakefield ship. I'd want to go somewhere with a bit of infrastructure and some potential, somewhere like a Hull or a Castleford if Darryl Powell moves on, something like that. That's what I'd.
Otherwise, you'd be looking to move to Lee or Bradford.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I'd love to have him at Bradford. But more about that later.
And he used to play at Bradford as well.
Yeah,
didn't he?
Well, he played for Wakey for a time as well. Didn't he?
He did. Yes. Yeah.
So he's got a foot in a lot of those camps, hasn't he? Right. Huddersfield Giants have signed Wakefield fullback Jordan Tansey on a 1-month loan deal. The 29-year-old made 8 appearances for the Wildcats last season after joining them from Castleford Tigers. Cue an absolute fucking meltdown from Huddersfield fans. I don't personally think that this is too bad of a piece of business. They're short of a few backs. Jordan Tansey can do a job. I'm not saying he's the greatest player in the world, but it's a limited market.
It possibly leaves the JB Foster party short of the spends for the beer.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and the baby shams. But it's a sensible move when you're lacking players to bring in someone experienced who basically is his main career ambition is to complete the full sweep of West Yorkshire
clubs,
and he's sort of looping round now, isn't he? So he's hitting Huddersfield. He can have a knock on at Halifax next, and then end up at Bradford, and he's done the full.
He's done it.
The ring, pretty much.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. It's all part of the Jordan Tansey master plan.
Exactly. Other Huddersfield news: Dan Smith's going to be out for up to 6 months. With the injury caught at the weekend.
Okay. Danny Wilson and Jason Netherton have taken charge of the City of Hull Academy under-19s team following the departure of head coach James Webster. Webster has been appointed as interim head coach at Hull KR until the end of this Super League season, meaning the City of Hull Academy director Danny Wilson will now take over as the under-19s head coach for the interim period. He will continue to be assisted by former Super League stalwart Jason Netherton, who was assistant to Webster in the New Look Academy setup. The coaching structure also includes former Hull FC player and coach Steve Crooks, as well as well-known local coach Rob Wilson. So things have calmed down a little bit on that whole United, Hull FC, Hull KR junior front, and it seems like there's a decent structure in place there.
Yeah, and a balanced structure. I mean, I think some Hull FC fans saw it as Jason Netherton was being put in charge, and then they're thinking, well, he's a Robin, isn't he? So, But I think I think there's a balance to that structure by the looks of it to me, and obviously they'll be looking after all of the interested parties. I think.
Yeah,
they had a decent start to the under-19 season anyway. They drew with Wigan, didn't they? And the young halfbacks in particular have looked good. The Hull FC ones, obviously. Cause what Hull K are contributing positively at the moment, let's face it.
Very little.
They're having to pull the players out of the 19.
I was going to say they'll be getting jobs, won't they? Yeah.
First team squad.
Open that ring fence. Right, Castleford playmaker Ben Roberts has signed a 3-year contract extension, tying him to the Tigers until the end of 2019. The New Zealand and Samoa international joined the club for the 2015 season after agreeing a 2-year deal with the Tigers. His new deal will see Roberts remain a Tiger until at least the end of 2019. And he went on to appear 25 times during his first Super League season, scoring 9 tries. I'm excited to be working with Darryl for a further 3 seasons. He said, Cass is definitely a club with a vision of success, and I want to play a part in that. My family and I are settled here, and I love playing for this club and with these boys. Congratulations, good piece of business.
Sensible and
he's doing well.
Progressive bit of business there.
That's right. Widnes forward Connor Farrell could be out for the rest of the season with a knee injury, though. Farrell, who is currently on loan to the Vikings from Wigan, hurt his knee and witnesses wheeling over Hull KR. Surgery is expected for the young back rower, so you'd wish him a speedy recovery. He's obviously been sent out on loan to get some experience, and it's not backfired, but it's obviously not worked out the way we would
like. He played every game up to the point of getting injured last week,
Okay, Swinton hooker Liam Hood has joined Leeds Centurions on a 2-year deal. Swinton claimed that Hood has activated a clause in his contract that allows him to take up a full-time professional deal. Hood has previously played for Leeds and Salford in Super League. Leeds Centurions head coach Neil Dukes said, Liam is a good quality, honest player with a burning desire to achieve success with Leeds Centurions. He has the pedigree to enhance the current squad and is fighting fit and ready to go. Bradford Bulls hooker Vila Halafi, he has joined Swinton Lions on a 1-month loan deal as well. He's been finding opportunities limited at Odsal this term.
Well, obviously that news came, and then within hours Liam Hood's news came out as well. So there's obviously a tie in there. I think the key thing in that Duke's quote was the fighting fit bit, because they struggled, haven't they? They've pulled back Reynolds from Dewsbury, which is going to be a big loss to Dewsbury until I assume they can get him back when Rangi's back in the selection picture.
God knows when that might be, though.
And good point actually. And that's it. Braley's done, isn't he? So.
Yeah, Braley's not going back, so it's just him and Rigid, isn't it?
Yeah, probably has to stay there now, doesn't he?
You would say so. Okay, Sheffield Eagles have confirmed that they will not be running a reserve team in 2016. A club statement reads, the decision is one the club have not taken lightly, but following the decision not to award Sheffield Eagles a Tier 2 academy status, the club felt it was left with no other option. Due to not being able to run an academy, there is no cohesive player pathway underneath our reserve side for this to be a viable option to run in 2016. Sheffield Eagles will be supporting those players affected by this to ensure they continue playing Rugby League and continue to develop as players and individuals. So that's some sad news, really, isn't it? That Sheffield are a pro side and are unable to kind of maintain or develop this side of the business.
It's really disappointing, and it's a bit strange to me, because it seemed like their youth structure was coming on quite a bit in the last few years, and but the last 2 people that have been appointed to run it now are doing jobs at the London Broncos, aren't they?
Yeah.
Henderson and your man Langley.
Yes.
So obviously staffing has been an issue in terms of that, so maybe that's part of why they didn't get the accreditation they needed to have the academy side, which meant basically how can they field a reserve side, because they don't have a big enough senior squad to make up a full reserve side, but they don't have any academy players to make up the shortfall, so they're kind of rocking a hard place. They did say that they're going to still support the local players in terms of sending coaches to local clubs and that sort of thing, but it's a strange situation, and it's disappointing, like you say, for a pro club to lose that status after becoming a professional club, a full-time club.
Absolutely. Okay, and finally, Rugby League charity RL Cares has revealed a plan to establish a National Rugby League Museum by 2020 and has commissioned a feasibility study. Dr. Kevin Moore, the director of the National Football Museum, will lead a working group to look into the potential location and funding opportunities. The Heritage exhibition does not have a permanent home, with the archive stored at Heritage Quay in Huddersfield currently. It is clear that there is a game-wide passion for heritage. Moore said a National Museum will bring to life the characters and events that have helped shape this great sport over the last 120 years and before. We are looking at developing a high-quality museum that eclipses all other sports museums in the world, a facility that is immersive, interactive and educational, and which contributes to the strategic objectives of the game.